Is that wonderful?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll turn it off then. That's fine. Okay, let's start again, shall we? Anyway, good evening to everybody. Thank you for coming and joining us this evening. The people sitting on to my left there, you're very welcome. And it's absolutely all right to be here and make your views known to us. And we're pleased that you've taken the time to do that. Thank you. And obviously over there as well, thank you very much indeed for both of you. Okay, there's no fire alarm planned for this evening. Should the alarm sound, please leave via the nearest available emergency exit. Two of the closest exits are through the glass doors behind you and to my left, and through the double doors onto the riverside, that's straight behind you. And please meet at the Café des Amis. Members of the public are welcome to make their own recordings of this meeting using whatever non-disruptive methods they think are suitable. I would like to remind everyone present that the meeting is being filmed and made available to view in live and archive form via the Council's website. If you are seated in the public gallery, it is possible that the cameras may capture your image. If you wish to avoid being filmed, it is recommended that you make a member of the staff aware who will direct you to sit somewhere else. The Westgate Gardens gates on the riverside are locked at sunset, so they're well and truly locked now. So members of the public must leave the Guildhall by the side exit through the glass doors. That's the one over there. Okay, now we move through to the agenda part of the meeting. The Cabinet is part of the Council responsible for the day-to-day decisions. It is chaired by the leader who is elected by the Council, and that's me, Alan Baldock. The other Cabinet members are as follows. Councillor Sol is Deputy Leader and Cabinet Member for Finance. So it's Mike's big gig tonight. Okay. Councillor Castle is Cabinet Member for Property and IT. Councillor Hazelton, Cabinet Member for Housing, who's got a part role tonight. Councillor Dawkins is Cabinet Member for the Environment and Climate Change. Councillor Charlotte Cornell, Cabinet Member for Council Services, Culture and Heritage. Councillor Chris Cornell, Cabinet Member for Economic Development and Inclusion and is the Coastal Towns Champion. Councillor Ricketts is Cabinet Member for Tourism, Transport, Performance and Oversight and is actually the Rural Champion. And Councillor Nolan, who's in charge of Community Engagement, Safety and Enforcement. Hey, so apologies, Lauren.
No apologies this evening, Chair.
That's great. So good to have you all with us tonight. Thank you for that. Declarations of interest by members or officers. Any received already, Lauren?
We've got none in advance, Chair.
Is there anybody feel they want to take anything? I'll go to Charlotte first, and then I've got Marie there as well.
Okay, on behalf of Chris Cornell and myself, we own a beach hut, just for the price rises there.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Just to declare, I'm also a director of Kinenco.
Thank you. Thank you, Charlotte, for reminding me of that. Actually, I own a beach hut as well. It's not a council beach hut, but thank you. And it would be better to recur it. Thank you. Connie.
I've just been reminded that I need to declare that I have an allotment plot, which I do not own. I rent, and it's rented from the council through the association.
And indeed, the produce is excellent. Thank you for that, Connie. And anybody else? Okay. Before we move through now, would any member of Cabinet like to make some announcements tonight? Anybody at all? Okay. Was that you as well? No, sorry, that's okay, thanks. Yeah, okay, Connie, thank you.
I would just like to say that Officer Bill Hicks and myself will be travelling to Rome to represent Canterbury at the General Assembly of the European Association of the Via Francigena, which runs from Canterbury to Rome, and we've been invited to an audience with the Pope. And on behalf of Canterbury City Council, I'm going to be presenting him with some, as yet unknown to me, gift and a letter from the Lord Mayor. But a great privilege for Canterbury City Council.
Indeed it is, Connie, and it's worth noting that we've focused very much on repairing the relationships with the Francigena, and it's been so important to our city, especially in these years of the Francigena as well. This 25 is the year of arrival, or March, I can't remember.
Yes, it's called the Year of Arrival, the Year of Pilgrimage, and that's why the General Assembly has been planned for 3 years to be in Rome. But of course, it's a great honour to be welcomed by the Pope himself.
Thank you, Connie. Thank you for taking that on board with us. It's appreciated. Anybody else? I don't think we've got public participation tonight, have we? No? Okay, that's really good. So what we need to do now is to move to item 5, which is the minutes of the meeting held on the 6th of October. Is any comments on that? If not, we can confirm those by general assent. Happy with that? Okay, thank you for that. I agree they're fine, aren't they? Okay. Okay. The next one is references to the committee, which is our, if you like, our advisory committees, which are overview, which was on the 11th of September and the 9th of October. Great to have their feedback, but on this particular occasion, there's nothing from their meetings that is relevant to tonight's agenda. So much as their opinions are incredibly welcome, incredibly relevant. So let's move forward. So we can note then that by general assent, their meetings are noted by us. Thank you. Right. Agenda item 7. Proposed changes to charges and conditions on council car parks. We don't have any public speakers on this announcement, which must be a first. So we need now to consider the report by Director of Place and Head of Transport and Environment, Richard Moore, and Councillor Ricketts is here tonight, whose portfolio it is. I'll leave it with you, Alex, whether you want to go now or after Richard. But if in the end you could actually move the forward, then that's okay. Thank you. That's absolutely fine. Over to you, Richard.
Thank you, Chair. Usually if Alex starts, it leaves me nothing to say anyway. So, so this is obviously our annual opportunity to look at our charges and conditioning in all our public car parks in the district. And these are items for consultation, which would come into effect on the 1st of April. So this year we're proposing very few changes in actual fact. But some will be controversial, no doubt, because obviously every time we put up or propose to put up parking charges, there is a level of objection. So the proposals for next April are for our Band 1 car parks, and you will recall a couple of years ago we set all our car parks into bands 1 to 5. Bands 1 are our busiest, and also, particularly in Canterbury, those car parks which are more centrally located, so they're the most convenient, but also cause the most environmental damage in terms of air pollution due to congestion. So we're proposing to put up all Band 1 car parks by 10p per hour, which equates to 2.7%. We're looking to increase by inflation the cost of parking permits. So these are the permits for people to use all our public car parks for residents and businesses. Item 3, yes, you have read that right. It is provide cheaper parking, and this is actually for in Reculver. We've got two two public car parks, one very close to Reculver Towers, quite a small car park, and a larger one near the Hat-Hats building, which we call Reculver Country Park car park. We're proposing to encourage longer stays in the Reculver area, to drop that car park from a band 2 to a band 3, which would reduce the hourly rate to £1.90 from £2.70. And finally, an item that we've done for the last 3 or 4 years, parking discounts, so that we can put a sum of money in the budget. So for events, and particularly this year, we're using quite a lot of that money around Christmas for Christmas incentives. So we've allowed a sum of money in the budget for parking discounts. So those are the 4 proposals. So if they are accepted at this meeting, they would go out to public consultation in line with the budget consultation, which I think will start later this week and go on until early January. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard. Do you want to pick up now, Alex, and take that away?
I certainly do, and thank you, Richard. Before I say anything, I should probably read the official words that Mike has helpfully found for me, since my computer's frozen. It's simply to resolve that the public consultation is undertaken on items 1 to 4 as set out in Appendix 1 and 2 of the minutes, as Richard has done. Do I need a seconder? Oh, can I have a seconder, please? Apparently not.
Seconded, Chair.
Thank you, Pip. It's very brave of you to step forward and put your name on a parking motion. Yes, and I think this is the 3rd go we've had at this as an administration. And I think when we first came in, I was advised that there are 2 ways of going about parking prices. There's the way it used to be done, which is you hammer a massive price rise in at the beginning of the administration, and then you don't have to do another one for 4 years, and you can just about get away with it. Or you can take the more sensible approach, which I think we've done, which I think, in fairness, is the one that officers would rather do, which is you look at the parking prices every year. You have to go through perhaps a bit of extra pain every year as you go through and consult on these things, but it allows you to take a much better look and be much more responsive as to how the car park's being used, what people are saying about them, and I think that's proven by the fact that over the last couple of years we've actually, as Richard pointed out, this year we're proposing to move Reculver down a band to make it much cheaper. This is in response to what a lot of residents have said to us, which is all year round they use that for dog walking, exercise and the like. It's primarily locals that use that car park, and it is expensive. It's not a touristy car park. It's not something that's there. And we were able to, with looking at the figures and being able to do that, we were able to actually bear the cost with the other changes to move that one down and help residents. So it allows us to be more responsive. It allows us to look at the way things are going. And as Richard said, the big idea with parking, creating the parking bans, trying to change behaviour, trying to reduce the congestion and pollution in our city and town centres, which was the idea here. And we've got really good evidence that that is happening. People are using the multi-stories in Canterbury, people are using Victoria Street and the others in Whitstable, and they are using the cheaper car parks and moving away from those more polluted ones. And at the same time, and unfortunately this is still the game, parking still makes a really positive contribution to our finances. And I think Mike will probably go on to the finances later on. We are in a much, much better state than most councils can claim to be at the moment. And unfortunately, that does mean we have to take some difficult decisions, and it does mean we have to be careful about how we run things. And where we have had to put prices up, we give people options. If you want to park in the very expensive car parks, that will be more expensive. And we can see from the numbers that some people still do want to park in those expensive car parks that are very close. However, within a short walk, we've made sure that there are cheaper car parks that haven't gone up in price in some cases for 3 years. And when you talk about park and ride, that's the case. We think it might be the cheapest person by person park and ride in the country. If you're talking about 6 people parking for a whole day for £3.20 with a residence rate, 6 people in a car, big car, but you know, that's the point, is that we want to give people options. So when we are putting prices up, there are options there. So I think that we've been as fair as we can while still having to keep in mind the fact that parking has to contribute to the budget. Really interested to hear what people have to say about it. I have already heard quite a lot of what people have to say about it, but I'd like them to respond to the consultation. And if there are some really good ideas about what we can do with parking in Canterbury, then we're all ears, and we'll probably do this again next year and have an opportunity to put them in place. So thank you very much to Richard and the team for working these proposals up. I think they're really, really good. And I commend you all to send it to the public to have their view.
Okay, Connie. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very much in favour of people using the park and ride, and I just wanted to use this opportunity to remind Richard that every year we get a new intake of students at the colleges and also the universities, and really pushing hard on the comms with those areas, I think would actually pay off. I am a little bit parochial because, being the ward councillor for Barton Ward, if they don't use the park and ride, then I get complaints from the residents that they can't park in their own streets because the students are there. But yeah, it's a fresh intake of freshers. So if you could really push that, that'd be brilliant. Thanks.
Yeah, it's a good point, actually. I think it's a very slight drop-off in the number of people renewing their residence parking permit, wasn't it? So maybe that is a push that we can go forward with that as well, because I think it's an amazing discount, isn't it? 10% off all bands apart from the highest band, as well as £3.20 for a park and ride. It's absolutely incredible. It's less than an hour's parking in some places across the country, isn't it? So really, really good. So maybe we take that away already. Mike.
I'm very supportive of this car parking proposal here. A less than inflationary increase on just our Band 1 car parks, it just goes to show how much the strategy is working. We haven't got to treat this as a cash cow and fleece our residents in order to balance a budget or anything. It's just a very modest increase on a few car parks. And as has been said, the residents' discount continues to be popular, as does park and ride. I think we've got it right. Car parks are busy. If we had empty car parks, we'd have a problem and need to look at it. But people are coming in, and I know people from outside the district who tell us that we've got it right in Canterbury when it comes to car parking, and it's always pleasing to hear when councillors from neighbouring districts think we're doing it right here. So I'm very happy to support this.
Fantastic. Anybody else? Chris?
Richard, just a question on the data. I think the general direction of travel is obviously kind of strong for the proposals in Canterbury, but we've always acknowledged, haven't we, that the proposal and the banding doesn't work as neatly on the coast because effectively of the capacity of certain car parks, and as a result, the proportion that we have in Band 1, Band 2 and Band 3 overall. I think it's really good to see Reculver redesignated. It strikes me as it's kind of fixed that quirk within the system, which is Reculver is a place we've spent quite a considerable amount of money because we expect it to draw people from a larger geographic area, much like Toddler's Cove. And this actually kind of now puts some parity to the two. But I was just kind of wondering on the information we had for the coast. So what I'm kind of interested in is, obviously, the total numbers are down, and yet the total take that we bring is up. And I wondered if I appreciate things go up and down seasonally, but do we have any information comparing effectively usage in certain types of car parks? So, for example, I guess I'm interested in it with a kind of strategic head-on. We've seen a reduction in usage at Market Street, because we've had a proportion of the site closed off for development. But interestingly, you'd imagine William Street, which is the same band, for example. I'm interested, do we think the people have moved from there to disproportionately increase the numbers in Neptune, which is geographically closer, but obviously a different band? And that might just raise some interesting questions, particularly around disability on the coast and access, for example. And then secondly, just a practical question. Do we have any means of looking at the geographic distribution of residents using the ANPR system in both of the areas. Could we questionably identify if parking acts are kind of up or down based on people who are in certain types of geographies for the more expensive areas? I don't know if that exists. That's a question. Have we ever done anything about the geographic travel and destination of various different people?
To answer that, so no, we haven't. We've done geographical for park and rides. So we did some analysis to find out where people lived and which park and ride site they use. We've never done it for public car parks. We could do it if we got their details through ANPR accounts, then we've got their postcodes. So we could do that analysis, but we haven't done. But yep, it's something I could do. Just looking at the figures. I've got a spreadsheet here comparing April to October last year to this year. So you say Market Street is down 14%, so 3,000 vehicles less we used Market Street, and Neptune was up by 1,300. So there was certainly some displacement from Market Street to Neptune. Market Street is more of a seafront car park, particularly that Mortimer Street end. The William Street is still down 5.9%. So William Street is still down on last year. So yeah, we've got all the data. So we can do that analysis, and that's the benefit of ANPR, because we can get proper data to you so that you can make informed decisions. But yeah, there's a bit of work on postcodes that I can do as well.
Okay, Mel.
Did you want to answer that, Councillor Coates? And then because my points are different.
I was just going to come in with a little point on that, which I think has been talked about in terms of the figures being down in certain areas on the coast, and actually I think it's within the report that bearing in mind that the figures we're looking at are for not the summer just gone, but the one before, which was one of the coldest and wettest for the last decade. And actually the figures, although it's not a total like-for-like comparison, have shown some improvement where we've had a much better summer this year. So it is still a lot of the figures being down. It's still a huge amount of that is weather dependent on the coast. And actually you can see from Canterbury that the weather effect isn't anywhere near as severe with Canterbury in terms of the number of parking acts. So that's just another one to add in. But absolutely very keen to have a little look at that and see if we can start to dig into the data a bit more on where people are moving to and from.
Thanks, Alex. It's good advice. Okay, Mel.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for the report and all that. Yeah, I was just going to make a comment on the climate change impact assessment, of course. So yeah, it says in the report that the Band 1 increases should encourage greater use of sustainable transport and therefore lead to a reduction in CO2 and nitrogen emissions. But it would be nice at some point, well, I was just wondering when we might expect to see some of that data and real evidence to see that it is decreasing.
Yeah, I could probably, I'm taking a report to scrutiny at the end of this month, actually. I've nearly finished the report now. But I could add some data about CO2 emissions for that committee. You're right, so we know how many fewer acts are parking in Band 1s, and we know how many of those acts, we know a corresponding increase in park and ride, so we can work out it's pretty broad CO2 emission data, but I can present that to the scrutiny committee.
Definitely would be interesting to see some sort of data, and yeah, that is a big motivation behind these parking charges anyway. It's one of the motivations, so yeah.
Yeah, do you want to come back on that, Alex?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, actually, and I think it is now that we've got that solid data to show that move, we can start to put some numbers to it, obviously with the caveats that it's not an exact, car for car one, but we can start to do that in the same way that those kind of figures have been there. The other thing, and as you'll recall from the the annual report that we discussed a few weeks ago, that we're starting to measure things within the KPIs that aren't necessarily in our control to give ourselves a wider picture. And one of the things that we're going to be looking at in that is bus and train usage, which, although we don't actually directly control, is an important part of telling the story in our district. And something that when people have questioned, oh, if the number of parking acts are down, is this an issue? And it's, well, actually, you know, this always has to be looked at through the lens that during a period of time when bus and train journeys are increasing within and to the district, this is where these parking acts are as well. So I think if there is any substitution of parking acts, you would hope that some of those are people being more encouraged to get the bus, being more encouraged to get the train. Certainly anecdotally, we've seen that in some of the things that people say on comments on stories about parking. Oh, well, you might as well get the bus, or you might as well get park and ride. And I think that seems to be the tone of where people are going. So it would be great to build up a wider picture of exactly how people are changing their behaviour on the back of this.
Yeah, I should agree there, Alex. I think that's a really good piece of work, I think, to get started. I think also it would bring us back to the focus of why we did this in the first place, to be quite honest with you. The idea was to reduce queues and the congestion, and it's worked, you know, and almost we've kind of not acknowledged that it has worked and continues to change people's actions. It's not cured overnight, you know, suddenly change people's opinions. It's a slow burn, isn't it? But we do make a difference, and I think, you know, and that also a reflect back where you're talking about that way that we homogenised the way that we looked at parking, as parking being a solution to the problems rather than just a money making issue. So we ought to reflect on that, and I think make sure we keep our firmly on track actually to do that. And of course it links to our UN Sustainable Development Goals as well, doesn't it? Indeed. Connie.
I'm really pleased you mentioned behaviour change because, as Councillor Ricketts has said, you know, there's been already a lot of sort of kickback on Facebook, and I do think it's important to make the point that the previous administration wanted to force behaviour change by introducing basically a tax on people coming into the city and so forth, which we opposed. And I think there has to be a balance, and we have to remind people that our approach to behaviour change is about encouraging and being more gentle than saying, if you come into zone 1, you've got to pay so much, which I said at the time, and I still maintain, was a tax on the poor, because people who are fairly affluent wouldn't notice the £2 or whatever here or there. But somebody, for instance, who was a care worker, domiciliary, going from one client's home to another would actually be penalised because they would have to pay that particular tax that was suggested by the previous administration so many times. So I think it's worth reminding people that we are affecting behaviour change through a gentler method than the previous administration proposed.
Thanks, Connie. And we're patient. So it takes time. It takes change. But we're there. When we're moving towards it. Anybody else? Okay. So we've had it proposed and seconded. And we need to vote on this, Lauren, don't we? Yeah, so if you vote on that now, to vote for it is to ask the public to respond to a consultation. Okay?
That's carried unanimously, Chair, with 9 votes.
We'll let Alex get a drink of water, and then we go forward and move on to the second two. Okay, thanks for that. So just a very short break there while we do that. So the next thing is item 8. That's the draft housing revenue account, a budget for 26-27. A mega important part of our budget, something that's dear to our heart and something that I think broadly, slight show spoiler, I think we can be very proud of this part of our budget as well this year. So I'm going to ask Mike to introduce this item, propose for the debate, and I'm sure Pip will second, and then we'll take it from there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. So if I can start off just with the proposal, and that is to resolve that we approve the principles of the draft housing revenue and capital budgets set out in appendices A to C for consultation. That can be seconded.
Seconded, Chair.
So thank you, Chair. I've just got a few words to say on this, very much sort of a top level, and then Pip will fill in more of the detail on this, because this is very much the housing revenue budget that Pip's been working on very closely with Marie and other officers, and I'm not going to steal her thunder with any of the great detail. But I am really pleased that we are here talking about the housing revenue account budget for 26-27, and the proposals in it reflect our commitment to our tenants and our responsibility as stewards of public housing. We are operating still in challenging financial environments, but I'm really pleased that this budget is built on strong principles of fairness, sustainability and improvement. And it's not just about the numbers in the report, it's about the people, the homes and their futures. And I know we're very much focused on that. The rent policy, as detailed, increases rent by 4.8%, which is CPI plus 1%, in line with government guidelines. And that ensures we can continue to invest in housing stock. And it's important to note that 75% of our tenants receive housing support, meaning the impact of this increase is mitigated in their household budgets. On service charges, we're committed to transparency, and just to recover costs on that, charges will reflect actual costs, and we're reviewing sheltered housing services to ensure they're equitable and sustainable. And if it's approved, we will be redesigning services to reduce costs for tenants whilst maintaining the quality. We're also investing in garage improvements with a modest rent increase aligned with market rates, and that supports our strategy of modernisation and potentially outsourcing the management for better efficiency. On the capital budget, many of our homes are quite old now, a lot of them over 50 years old, and we must act on this. The budget prioritises the health and safety, decarbonisation and tackling damp and mould. We are outsourcing the stock condition survey to ensure we have accurate data to guide future investment, and that's really important. And by July next year, we'll have a clear roadmap for that planned maintenance. And we also want to continue to expand our housing stock. Since 2023, we've added 89 homes, and we're setting aside reserves so we can continue to do that. Our guiding principle is simple. New homes must be financially viable and indistinguishable from other tenures. And we're building communities, not just houses. And finally, this budget reflects our response to the regulator on social housing inspection. We've acknowledged the findings and are acting decisively. The Cabinet Advisory Committee, including tenant representatives, will oversee the improvement plan. It's about accountability, transparency and partnership. So in conclusion, the HRA budget is not just a financial document, it's a statement of intent, and it's financially sustainable. We're investing in people, protecting housing futures and ensuring every tenant has a safe and warm and dignified home.
Thank you, Mike. Very much to the heart of the matter there. Pip, yeah, presume. Yep.
Thank you, Chair. I think lesson for me was I should have spoken to Mike sooner, because I'm just checking through my notes. And, well, I suppose it's a good thing, Mike, because we've got the same things to say. We're not coming up with different things, but I suppose I want to echo really what Mike has said about their houses that we want to invest in, raise the quality and where we can, the number of properties. But first and foremost, they're people's homes. And we came in as a kind of joint administration, Labour and Lib Dem, both parties committed to improving the quality of homes. There's also been this massive focus, quite rightly, and to be fair to the previous administration, they set the ball rolling, in government about bringing in the social housing regulator. So standards have improved. We've got AWAB's law about damp and mould has just come onto the statute book. And so there's a lot more focus on the quality and standards that, quite rightly, people who live in our homes could and should expect. That costs money, and it's just so that I know you guys are aware, but this is a public meeting, and in case people, either here in the hall or listening back, aren't aware that the housing revenue account has to be self-sufficient. So we can't, for example, take money from the car parks to subsidise housing. So the rents that we get in, basically, have to repair and make the improvements that we need or service the borrowings that we might have in order, for example, to buy new properties. So I just want, everybody, the public in particular, to understand that. And one of the things that we've struggled in, that we inherited when we took over the administration in May 23, was that there wasn't much of a buffer. And officers, I think, were rightly concerned and rightly drew to our attention the fact that we needed to have a small buffer, that we had too small a buffer surplus. We must present a balanced budget. We can't not legally. I would be in such trouble from our officer colleagues if we suggested stuff where the money didn't stack up. So I just want to go through some of the highlights that are in there. We've put 5 million aside to buy or build new council homes, and we've been deliberately kind of broad about that opportunity because we don't know what will come along. There might be some new build properties that represent really good value. It might be about acquiring some older stock from the market. Something that makes me quite cross, really, is that while Right to Buy was excellent for a number of people, that quite often the state has built those homes, they've sold off those homes, and now we're buying back our old, ex-council stock where we're able, and then we have to spend money on upgrading them and bringing them back into, to a decent standard. But so we've been deliberately kind of wide in how we might apply that money, always making sure, of course, that the money adds up, that the rents that we would then be able to achieve for those within our council stock, we're able to service the debt. We've set £1 million aside to bring homes up to the government's decent home standards once the stock condition surveys are completed, which should be in July next year. So the bulk of that won't start to be spent until, partway through the financial year, and then we'll need, money in the years beyond. We've also established a repairs and maintenance capital fund in order to achieve our corporate plan ambition to improve the quality of our council homes. An extra 500,000 to adapt homes of disabled tenants to make their homes more comfortable and accessible for them. More staff to act on the regulator of social housing's findings. Extra staff to tackle problems with the damp and mould as quickly as possible. And relatively small but a really important inflation-busting increase is proposed in the amount of money we can give to Canterbury Housing Advice Centre and Citizens Advice Bureau to support their vital work. People, when they get themselves, often into into debt or are struggling or need advice around their housing costs and their housing situation, bury their head in the sand until, you know, matters get really problematic. It's completely understandable that, you know, that can be very stressful. And often they don't like to approach the council, whereas Citizens Advice Bureau and Canterbury Housing Advice Centre are the voluntary sector, and they do incredible work in supporting tenants, both our tenants and people who might otherwise become homeless and then need to, you know, fall on this, you know, the services of the City Council. So it's going to be extremely challenging to meet the costs of health and safety compliance, AWAB's law, backlog of planned maintenance, decarbonisation of existing homes, and increasing the council's housing stock, as well as meeting the challenges rightly identified in our recent Regulator of Social Housing judgment. Mike's already run through the CPI +1 increase in rent proposals. In February of this year, Council delegated Cabinet the authority to approve the annual rent variation, provided it's in accordance with the government policy. So I think, Mike, you may have said already that 75% of tenants receive either full or partial housing benefit or universal credit, and a lower rate would mean an equal loss in their benefits. So for at least 3/4 of our tenants, the rent increase shouldn't represent additional hardship. Service charges you've covered, Mike, as well as garage charges. And there will be a proposal coming to Cabinet shortly about whether or not to outsource garage maintenance. And regardless of the decision that whether it's in-house or outsourced, these rent increases are proposed. So this budget can do all this along with restoring a prudent HRA working balance or surplus of £1.5 million, but that's only possible with the skill and determination of our great finance team, working with our excellent housing leadership and their dedicated teams. Even so, some elements of this budget may need to be amended mid-year. It's a really tight and difficult thing that I think our finance officers and our housing leads have worked absolute wonders on, and I'm really pleased to commend it, and hopefully we can answer any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Pip. That's appreciated that. There's so much to do there. So, Marie, can you just touch on anything that might have been missed in the background, then we go to Alex to start to make comment.
I think both portfolio holders have covered everything. So if there are any questions, I'm more than happy to take them. Thank you both.
That's fantastic. It's a good place to start. So it's Alex, Mel, and then Connie, please.
I just want to, it's slightly bittersweet, because I want to pick up on the theme that we were talking about just now, which is, and very early on, Pip, you said May 2023. It feels a lot longer than that, doesn't it? Feels like much longer than May 2023. And actually, I didn't know the detail of until we got to sit around the cabinet table about how many constraints there are through the HRA, the really tight strictures in which we have to work to do things. And the fact that in that short period of time, I think you've been able to come here and talk about the improvements that we've got in front of us now. The fact that £5 million is being set aside for new council homes in a period of time where hard choices are having to be made everywhere. The fact that we are able tonight to vote on something that means homes for people being provided by a city council. I think when I was first elected as a councillor in 2019, the idea of that sort of money being put aside in Canterbury for buying or building council homes was so far from the agenda of the first council that I was elected to. And the fact that only in that short period of time from May 2023 to now we've got, imagine if we'd have had 14 years, where we'd be now. Imagine if you'd been in charge of housing for the last decade, Pip. What would we be, you know? But I think that's the point. And we touched on this theme earlier on, that we have been aware of the fact that these things take a really long time but it is the political will. And also, as you mentioned, working with the officers, giving them the opportunity to go, this is what we want to achieve, this is the direction we want to go in. And then they run off and perform minor miracles with spreadsheets and the like. Richard's already gone off home to look at his spreadsheets that have been prompted from my portfolio, but I know that it's constantly, you go back, we set them really, really difficult challenges and questions every couple of weeks, and they come back and rise to the challenge every time. But I think that's the point, is that you can now see, and it's not, of course, for cracking open of champagne corks, because we would like 10 times that amount of money to be set aside for council houses. Of course we would. That's what we want to be doing. But the fact that we're there and we're on that journey, and it's not taken us 10 years to get to that point. It's taken us a little over 2 years to get to that point, and hopefully the direction of travel will continue, and we can start to see that social housing stock rebuild. And you're absolutely right. Every time I go through Hales Place, I look at all of those council houses that are now student accommodation that aren't there, and think, what, you know, we've got a real need for those kind of homes now, and it's such a shame that they can't be there. But I think there is cause to stand back and have a look at this and go, this is something I'm really, really proud to be able to vote for tonight. And again, great work, all of you. And I will absolutely be pressing the yes button on this one. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. I think just before you start there, I think absolutely right, isn't it? I think, and when I was reading the papers for this one, you just reflect, don't you? What a horrible place we started from. And I don't think any of us realised how difficult this was going to be, and how pleased we are that we're actually on that journey. And perhaps more than anything, I feel, although we've got huge problems with our housing stock because of the neglect of 10, 15 years, really, and East Kent housing and all that sort of stuff, at least I can see now that we can slowly and surely, with positive news, get through this, and we can make our stock better over these coming years without having to look in the back pocket all the time for a penny or two to do the right thing. We should have been doing the right thing. Now we are going to do the right thing. Mel, yours.
Okay, yeah, thank you. And I've got a question and a comment, but so I just, you know, this I'm really, and just commenting, adding to what Mike and Alex and what you said about this budget report this time going out to consultation. I really think it's a brilliant one. It's it's a serious one, and it's robust, and it's really getting to the nub and taking our responsibilities very seriously and showing how we're actually going to deal with them, which is really, really great. So but I just got one question about the service charges. So small detail now, but at Woodlands, I was trying to read what it said. There isn't an increase for next year or 2026, 27, but I was wondering what protections, if there are any in place to protect that service charge not going wildly out of control, which I know it does for some private estates, and if protections could be put in. And then the comment is just how sort of sad and to see that the fly tipping costs at the cost they are, and increasing as well, when that money could be used for other more important things. But I mean, that's just a comment really, and you know, it'd be great to get that out on the ether, that people realise that is costing £125,000 to remove fly tipping, and that money could be going on repairing quite a number of homes. So
Actually, we'll have a little pause. That's fine. If these are our guests are going, that's absolutely fine. That's fine. Not to worry about. Thank you for coming tonight, all of you. Go back to that fly tipping point, Mel, which grinds at all of us, doesn't it? Really. Okay, that's yeah, good. Yeah, do you want to come back on those comments, then, Marie?
When we acquired the Woodlands, obviously with it being a new build site, there are additional service charges that apply because it's that new site. So things like some of the ground maintenance works. We agreed up from what that looked like. The company obviously has got the right to change those and recover those costs, but all tenants who moved into those properties were made aware of those costs when they moved in. Our policy on service charges is full cost recovery. So, yeah, short term, it's how we agreed it. In the medium to long term, there may be increases, but we will look at that and review that in terms of the site each year.
Okay, Mel, do you want to come back?
Yeah, no, thanks for that. I just know there's a number of sort of campaigns that have successfully won to keep those service charges down. So I might be, or maybe I could speak to people about it, and that could be passed on. But you probably know about them as well.
Yeah, thanks, Mel. Okay. Yeah, do you want to come back, Pip, please?
Yeah, just on that general, kind of generally about that, Mel. I'm always on the lookout for where there are, national campaigns where we can join together with other councils to put pressure on things, and officers also obviously are, specialists in housing. We get a lot of information about where there's possible movement or campaigns to be worked on, and I'm always, if you see anything that and you're not sure whether it's past me or officers by, please ping it in my direction. Thank you.
Thanks for that. I've got Connie next. And Chris to follow you.
Thank you. Many years ago, and not under this council, I was a council tenant, and only after I moved in, I found out that I'd been offered it because everybody else was turning it down and they didn't want it standing empty. And I know that damp and mould is a perennial problem in particularly council property. And you will be unsurprised to know that I was a founder member of the Tenants Association. And we found it was lack of proper maintenance. And it wasn't the fault. The tenant was always blamed. Oh, you're dirty, you don't open your windows, turn your heating up, get some bleach on that. And it would turn out to be a downpipe that had been dripping for years, some lack of maintenance somewhere. And I think it's so important when you talk, Pip, about the fact that we're having to buy back properties and the money that we're investing in those homes for people. I'm absolutely delighted that we've got 89 new homes, brand new homes, because as a ward councillor, I have sat and listened to young families who are living in council accommodation which is unsuitable or becoming unsuitable because of more children coming along for them. And in their head, they want a nice sort of house with a garden for the kiddies. And that's lovely. And I also know that we hadn't got enough available. And so I absolutely do commend the fact that we're putting money aside. And yes, it would have been lovely if we'd have had Pip in charge 10 years ago, but we are where we are. We are actually starting to sort of make those changes. And the other thing that we do, and I think we're very good as a council on this, is we actually listen to our tenants. So when they come along and they complain about something, we do investigate. Haven't got a magic wand or whatever, but we do follow up and we do listen and investigate and listen to people's complaints. I often, as you probably know, pick up stuff from Facebook, and I know several of us do that. And often when I follow it through, it's not council accommodation at all. It's private accommodation or it's another housing association. So what tends to happen is people get very upset on Facebook about something and it's the council's fault. And it turns out it isn't our fault at all. But we are always the whipping boy. And I suppose what it is people have that faith in us that we will do things. So, yeah, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the officers and to thank you, Pip, for moving forward on a very, very positive housing approach.
Yeah, please come back, Pip.
Thanks, Connie. We appreciate that. I don't want to stray too far from the budget because it's the budget this evening. But some of the efficiencies that are being driven, within the housing department are, for example, with voids. We've just employed a new voids coordinator, and where we can get the repairs, the upgrading, the turnaround done much more quickly, so that we have homes available more quickly at a better standard for people. That helps us with the rent as well. We're getting, you know, that's not an empty property. It's a home for someone, and it's a better standard, and it's bringing us in income. So, you know, it's a little bit off the point of the budget, but it's a really important part of why we can invest what we're doing, is partly because of officers looking at how we can deliver those sorts of efficiencies. Thanks.
You say it's off the budget, and to a degree it is, but of course it's not, because we are able, if we're financially stable, we're able to invest in those sort of things, aren't we? We're able to employ the right number of staff and spend the money we need to get things done, and, you know, invest to save, if you like, isn't it, all the way along. So I think that's where we've moved to, and I feel really much happier with that situation. You know, give us £100 million, we could spend it, but we wouldn't be able to spend it next week and repair everything overnight, would we? But we need to work every single week, every single day, to make things better, don't we? And that's where we need to, but that costs money too. So I think it's really good. I think it was Chris, wasn't it?
Yeah, I wanted to ask a question on the woodlands as well, because I appreciate that we have full cost recovery, but as Mel's identified, that cost is variable and identified by a third party, and it's not our usual procedure to depool costs, so to speak. So, and if we become more acquisitive within the market, this might become a problem for more properties. So I was just wondering, how are we individually keeping an eye on it? Because obviously we've had new tenants come in, and do we have any financial products or support available? It is still a relatively hefty chunk if you're on benefit to pay out at one time. Is there a way in which they could profile it across the year in different rent payments? How are we just keeping an eye on it, given that it is a new arrangement and might become something which we just want to keep an eye on as we go forward?
Yeah, come back as far as you can on that, and we pull it together. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, well, I mean, we review service charges every year. The ones for the woodlands are on grounds maintenance. Some of it is on car park surfacing. So it's essential repairs and maintenance, but we do review the service charges every year. At the minute, there is no financial support available, but anybody that moved into that site, we did extensive affordability checks to make sure that the rent service charges were actually affordable. Just coming back on the point of damp and mould and the quality of our homes, just as a reminder, we did secure 8 million Warm Homes grant to improve 800 plus properties, which the HRA is match funding in terms of repairs and maintenance costs. And the whole premise of the Warm Homes is about looking at homes as a whole, not just dealing with one repair, and looking to solve any sort of systemic issues that would be the source of damp and mould. So really positive that we're doing that as well.
I think having a damp and mould officer is going to help us to pull that together, isn't it? We need to understand this along with our stock level, our stock surveys too, isn't it? You know, that's really important to get that, I think, together, isn't it? So, yeah, please go ahead.
Sorry, I don't want to drag this out. Obviously needs to go to consultation. Just a really quick question about the rent convergence, the £44,000 a week. That's not budgeted, it says. So will that give headroom in the HRA when it gets adopted by government? Will that put potentially £2 million back into the pot to regurgitate? Thanks.
Yeah, that's worth an explanation. That's a really good point, actually. Let's get that out in public. That's really good.
Yeah, I mean, just to confirm that with the rent policy and the impact of that historically, we have lost a lot of income because of national policy. When properties become empty, so when they become void, we then update the rent for the property, and we're able to increase the rent to an affordable rent level, social housing rent level. So we are doing that on a gradual basis as properties come in. I think the rent convergence, yes, it will really benefit the HRA, and it's a way of standardising and catching up on some of previous rent policy. And just to say as well, with the service charges, depending what the charges are for, people can claim housing benefit for them.
Yeah, thanks. I think the point being, do you know how many years? It was a long time ago that the previous Conservative administration actually stopped rents being increased. Wasn't it? Goodness knows, must be, 10 years ago or more? So for 10 years, rent stayed the same. This was obviously, the idea was to actually, it sounded like a great idea that tenants don't pay so much rent, but of course actually what it meant was that their benefits payments were also suppressed as well. So with all of that in mind, and of course we didn't get enough money in the end anywhere near to cover what it cost actually to rent the property. So that's why we've ended up in the pickle we've got today. So that's really the long and short of rent convergence. I think that's probably the political side of what Marie's rather explained there. So that's fine. That's fabulous. Anyone else comments at all? I think that's really good. We need to vote on this, don't we? So it's been proposed and seconded. Yep. That's really good. So a vote is to ask the public to comment on this as well.
That's carried with 9 votes, Chair.
Okay, let's move straight through to item 9, which is the draft general fund and capital budgets 26-27. We've got 2 votes to do on this. So I guess, Mike, you're going to introduce those as well. Yeah. So that'd be great. I think the best thing is probably, if you can, to propose and get a seconder for both things that we need to vote on, and then we go through the whole debate and then we vote on the 2 things separately if we need to. Is that okay? And then we keep that flowing, because for most of us it doesn't make much difference being in whatever pot it is, does it? So I'll leave it with you, Mike, to do that if you wouldn't mind, please.
Thank you, Chair. So if I can start off then with proposing that we resolve to endorse the budget assumptions and strategy set out in the report, in Report B, that a public consultation be used to seek views on the significant proposals in Appendices 1 to 4, as amended to reflect decisions taken at this meeting. And C, that for the cost recovery fees and charges highlighted in amber in the Appendix 4, officers are able to further increase or decrease charges during the year by up to 5% if costs vary in consultation with the leader of the council. And also to recommend to full council that D, the capital programme for the current year, is amended as shown in Appendix 2. That can be seconded.
Thanks, Lee.
I'd like to second that, Chair.
Thank you. And are you going to, and you're going to second both of those votes, of course?
Apologies, I'll second both.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, this is the 3rd time I've done a budget speech as such, and of course this is just the trailer. We get the full motion picture later on next year, so this is a bit more short and sweet. It's been a real pleasure this year to be involved in the budget process. I think it's probably been our easiest budget, and I mean that because everyone was really working together and the numbers all came together. And as cabinet members, I know you all had a lot of meetings with officers before we started putting things together, but everyone came forward with ideas, and I think in most cases, if not all, we've been able to work with those and achieve what we wanted in the budget. So, you know, it wasn't a matter of striking through things this year. It's been really good to be able to do a lot of positive things. So this budget really, it builds on what we've done in previous years, and the fact that we've got that stable platform to build on. And it means that we've now got, through what we've been doing, our financial responsibility, you know, we can deliver an excellent service, and we've got long-term resilience built into this budget. We've still got the complicated economic landscape, but this budget is, you know, a testament to the proactive work that we've done and the community-focused priorities. It's not about balancing the budget. You know, this is about how we. Well, of course, it is about balancing the budget. But what I mean is that this budget is how we deliver services, and it's the way that we deliver services. It's more about the words that are important. The numbers are there to make those words happen and make sure that we do the best we can for residents of this district. Our council tax proposal is, of course, the standard 2.97% increase, equivalent to just £7.38 a year for a Band D property. And that makes sure that we can continue to deliver those essential services whilst remaining, of course, sensitive to household budgets. Not that it would be possible for us to increase it beyond that. Fees and charges will go up by the rate of inflation at 4% where appropriate to ensure cost recovery. And importantly, we've reviewed every fee individually, as we do every year. Some remain unchanged, but others have been reduced, such as the bulky waste collection charges. And we really hope that that will encourage people to use the council services to dispose of significant amounts of waste from their homes and getting it removed legitimately rather than being fly tipped. On the capital side, we're investing in the future, and the capital programme, as you've seen, includes feasibility work for the multi-storey car park at Wincheap Park and Ride, and in future budgets, of course, £10 million to fund that alternative option. There is ongoing investment in building maintenance, digital infrastructure and community safety. And the thing we talked about last year, I'm delighted to see work will start on it next year, is the £2 million on Kings Hall, which is so important to the regeneration of Herne Bay. Things such as tree planting, coastal protection and the Canterbury Hedge project, all really exciting, smaller things, but things we're able to do next year. So that's really important, showing our commitment to biodiversity and climate resilience. This budget is underpinned by a clear strategy, reduce risks, rebuild reserves and deliver value. We're focusing on efficiency, digital transformation and asset management to ensure long-term sustainability, so important as we move into local government reorganisation and a unitary. We want to hand over this district to another authority in a sustainable and viable way with everything ready. So in conclusion, this is a responsible, forward-looking budget. It protects services, invests in our future and strengthens our financial position. I must thank all Cabinet members for their work on this, and of course the finance team and officers for their work. And now it's over to residents to take part in the consultation process and let us know what they think.
Thanks, Mike, and thank you to you for putting that together in a brilliant way, actually, and getting us all on board. And I guess being like the pivot, things happen, and Nikki's probably been driven nearly mad by you, probably, and the other way around, possibly. I don't know, but she'll let us know in a minute. But it's fantastic, and thank you all, and thank you to the team, especially your team, Nikki, as well, been absolutely awesome in all of these budgets tonight. Was there anything you wanted to add to what Mike has said? Please do. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. The only thing I was going to raise was about that Councillor Sell has mentioned was about the bulky waste charges, that we have got an open question in the consultation. So we welcome as much feedback on that so we can get lots of data about what the residents think, and then we can build that in. Thank you.
Yeah, really good point, Nikki. Thanks for clearing that up. It's clarifying it, and it picks up to what Mel was saying about the costs on our HRA, for example, of fly tipping are huge. So yeah, we need to get that right and open books questions. Any questions from anybody? I think we've got a proposed and seconded, so we can debate our way to heart's content. Alex.
Imagine if Mike Soul had been in charge of the budget for the last 10 years. But no, I think, again, and not to continue the self-congratulatory tone of the evening, it's wonderful to sit here the third go round on this meeting and actually see a budget like this, which has got stuff in it that people have desperately wanted. I think we've all fed into this and asked for various different things. The fact that most of those have been able to be delivered is fantastic, and huge thanks to the team that pulled it together. Increasingly small team, I know, over the years, but one that does incredible work. I think this is brilliant. I can't wait to hear what people think about it. And obviously we'll commend that to go. But I do feel that, again, for the third time this evening, I'm able to push a button and be really proud of that action. So well done all.
Any other comments, anybody? Pip and then Con.
Thanks. Yeah, I just particularly wanted to emphasise that kind of collaborative effort that went on. I mean, I feel, I don't know whether I was slow to wake up, when we took over the administration to, the opportunities and the possibilities of budget setting. But I think it's, from an internal point of view, I think it's worked really well. And this, reflects that collaborative working and the aspirations of the council. So like you, Alex, I'm really looking forward to hearing, what the public are feeding back, and as well as thanking the officers, I want to thank Mike for obviously working on that, and I look forward to the full Technicolor speech later on. Thank you.
Yeah, Connie, and then straight to you, Charlotte, please.
Thank you. And thank you, Mike and Nikki and the team. And I just wanted to say that I know a lot of other councils are struggling to balance their budgets. And I just wanted to say we've done it, and we've done it in good time without panicking about anything. And I think we should say, we work jolly hard. When we took over in 2023, I remember the long meetings that we had and thinking to myself, gosh, what would you get into? But we still have these challenging meetings, which I think is important. But we trust the council officers, and hopefully they trust us. And I think that's really important. And I just want to emphasise that we are actually working together collaboratively to achieve the kind of vision that we have as a council.
Thanks, Connie. Charlotte.
Yes, to reiterate, as both have said, we are listening on bulky waste charge ideas and what the public want us to collect, how we could make it more efficient for items to be collected, if a better system of collection could help avoid some fly tipping issues in the area. So from a Can&Co and waste point of view, we're really looking forward to that information from the public. And there is a lot of work that goes into balancing the waste collections, streams and charges and bins. And thank you very much to everyone involved, Mike and the officers, in bringing that through so neatly. Things often have to rise slightly to keep up with inflation, and that's wage pressure, as well as pressure of cost of fuel for running such a large fleet, so that we can continue to collect rubbish efficiently. But I think we are doing a good job of that, and I feel the prices remain fair. We've also benchmarked well against our neighbouring authorities. And as we come towards perhaps a period of local government reform, though, that benchmarking will become really important so that residents aren't shocked or surprised or bitten really hard by unnecessarily large gaps that come in 2027, 8 or 9. So, yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, officers.
Yeah, thanks for that. Appreciate that. Anybody else? Okay. Yeah, that's so. We've got 2 votes. So the first vote is to endorse the budget assumption strategy. That's the first one through there. Public consultation and the cost recovery of fees and charges, which Mike done. So we can vote on that one first, please.
That's carried with 9 votes, Chair.
That's great. So that's now goes to consultation. And the second one is the capital programme for the current year. That's the second vote, so we vote for consultation on that as well.
Also carried with 9 votes, Chair.
Yeah. So that's to go to full council. Okay, slight difference there. That's why we have to vote for it twice, wasn't it? Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. So Right. Okay. Don't think we've got any other items to consider, have we, in this one? So is that what they might call it use the Technicolor and the multi-screens and stuff at the moment. So, no other urgent business in public, item 10? No. I don't think so. Don't need to exclude the press and public. That wouldn't take long anyway, would it? Thank you, Graham. Sorry. And nothing to do in private. No. Okay. So in that case, the next meeting is on the 8th of December at 7 o'clock, same time, same place. And the meeting is timed at, I think it's...
We've got a special on the 20th.
Oh, yeah. No, we better make sure both...
So the next normal cabinet will be on the 8th of December.
Yeah, but we've got a special one, haven't we, which is 20th of
November.
November. So please come the 20th of November. All right, that's the, sorry about that, I should have, 20th of November, which is when we meet straight after that council meeting, isn't it? So that's a double meeting. So 20th and the 8th of December. So thank you for that. The meeting's now closed at, I think it's about 17 minutes past.